We are live right now. Welcome to Disruptive Conversations. And today my guest is Amy Betters-Midtvedt. And while I'm waiting for her to come on, I just want to let you know, I was thinking about this as I was doing this. And it's like, I'd love for you to know this, which is that every time I go on, before I go live, I do my 4 + 4 = 8 breathing exercise, not because I'm nervous, because it helps to focus. Amy is coming on already. She's gotten here's her request, and journey onto the land of Instagram. And we're going to have a great conversation. Amy's got a tremendous sense of humor. Hi!
Hi! Look at us go.
We did it. We did it. So I'm going to introduce the show myself. I'm going to introduce you, and then we're off and running into our conversation. So everyone, welcome to Disruptive Conversations with thought leaders, influencers, innovators, authors, family, child, teenage specialists, in which we deep dive into the experiences these women have needed to navigate and conquer in order to have achieved their personal and professional success up to this point in time. I'm Dr. Risa Reiger, clinical psychologist, and I'm an expert in change. Here's the good news. Positive change can happen at any point in time, no matter what. You are not too late. And in order to create positive change, you need to disrupt. You need to disrupt a thought, a feeling, a belief, a behavior, a habit in order to create your 10.0 life. And that's what this series of conversations is all about. And today, I'm so excited, and I'm sure you are too. Today, we have Amy Betters-Midtvedt to help us on this journey. And she will share hers with us as well. So Amy is a Today parenting contributing author with more than 1 million readers, and she has 25 years of experience working with adolescents and families. That is not for the faint-hearted. In her job as a literacy coach and in her personal life, she and her husband Tom have five children. Amy has become a master. In addition to having a master's, she also has become a master of each developmental stage one can have with children. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is the challenge of knowing that with every stage, with every kid, it's different, no matter what. And she has a master's degree in leadership, curriculum, and instruction, and began her writing journey when she launched her website and social media in 2016. So Amy's a tremendous vet here, and she's appeared in publications, she's on Instagram, and as she said, to her teenager's delight, she is also on TikTok. So
trying, man, I'm trying.
they said we couldn't do it.
We
could not do it. So Amy, welcome. And is there anything that I haven't mentioned that you would like to mention?
Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I appreciate it so much. I'm just so excited to be here to talk to you today. Your whole intro, I was just like, yes, anytime we can do it. I think so much of it is about that disruption. What can we disrupt to make that change that we need to make? And I feel like that's a lot of what I wrote about in my book and what I write about in general. So I'm so excited.
Fantastic. So jumping right in, Amy, what is it that you needed to disrupt in yourself in order to have achieved where you are right now, both personally and professionally?
Oh gosh, so many things, right? I think there are so many patterns that we use in our brains that we're not even aware of that are happening all the time. And so for me, I really reached this challenge point my tipping point for needing to disrupt those things for me was parenting my teens. It was all of a sudden, you know, I kind of went through, I became a teacher and I loved it. And I loved education and I taught all different grade levels and I loved them all. And then I had my kids and I felt like I was doing this thing that I could just sort of do, right? And I was in my zone. And then my kids became teenagers. Around the same time, just coincidentally, I decided to also become a writer, right? I was going to decide do this new thing for myself. And stepping into these two new spaces, I just realized I was just kicked right on my behind end, right? At every turn, different things were happening. And I felt so unprepared. And I was leaning back into this idea that I could control it. All right, I can control it, right? Because when you're little,
moment of humor,
right?
That is our moment of humor. Okay,
right. Like, no problem, right? Like, I was controlling the pace of my fourth grade class, and I was controlling what my little kids were doing, and then all of a sudden, I was controlling none of the things. This was not going to work, and so I did what people do. Instead of being like, "Oh, I need to make a change," I thought I'm just going to double down. I'm going to lean in harder. I know we need more rules, more boundaries, more really good ideas from mom about how this is all going to run. And it was just a disaster. And as my kids pushed back on these things that were happening and they decided to be what actual human people with actual human ideas, right? Yeah, which was disrupting my whole life at that point, I realized there had to be a different way. And alongside that, not only were they becoming human people, we were dealing with some big things in our family. We had some mental health crises happen. We had some kids that were just in the weeds in different ways. I have a lot of neurodivergence that popped up in my family, which was like a whole different thing. So it was just such a combination of things. And I think we often find ourselves in that messy middle, right? When everything is kind of coming together and we really have to confront, I can't control anybody but myself. So now what am I going to do next? So for me, that was really the tipping point.
And how did you navigate that?
Okay. Well, first I cried.
Thank you.
I cried. I grieved. I actually remember writing in my journal, like, wait a minute, is this feeling I'm feeling actual grief? Like, everybody is here and under my roof, but I felt actual grief about the losses of these different stages and these different things that my kids were passing on to this new stage. And I needed to feel that. I needed to be sad about it. I needed to give myself permission to feel and to name those emotions. And then I needed to figure out what is the different way. And for me, I was lucky to have this whole educational background. Like, I thought, I do this all the time. Why am I not doing these things in my house? I know how to talk to adolescents. I know that I'm not grounding them is not the answer, or, to keeping them locked up in their room is not the answer, or yelling at them is not the answer. And so I was really able to take some of those things that I knew were good practice for dealing with human children and bring them into my home and say, what if I tried this? And I'm not running it like a classroom. It's understanding that developmentally, here's where their frontal lobes are at. This is all very normal. They are experiencing very normal things. And what I'm experiencing is also very normal. It's a big transition for me. So how are we going to enter that space together? And then I needed to decide, what did I want this to look like at the end? What was the outcome I was going for here? Am I going for my kid showing up every night at 10 o'clock? Or am I going for a lifelong relationship with my children that is going to keep us connected forever? I love them with my whole hearts, but every bit of my being, every part of me loves these people. And I want them around forever. And I also want to be a healthy person that is allowed to also take time for myself and pursue a writing career and do all these things that I want to do. And how is I going to enter in this space differently so that things just changed and we became just different as a family? So I really was then the change agent. It wasn't waiting for my kids to be different. It wasn't waiting for the world to be different. It was, what are the pieces that I can actually try to do differently? And then what's going to happen on the other side that I can then repeat as needed.
When you're talking about this, the idea that, not only do our children have developmental stages and phases, but also as parents, and that's not adequately, I think, really identified, is that we have developmental changes as parents.
Correct. And like somehow this system is like your kids become teenagers and you get to also go through perimenopause. Who designed that? I have no idea. Right? Like I just need to have some words.
Timing, right?
Right. So yeah, so there's all these things happening, and we really are confronted at that point. If we haven't dealt with our things, we need to deal with our own things at that point, right? We need to take some responsibility for what are the patterns that I'm leaning into and I'm continuing that maybe come all the way from my childhood. Maybe there are things that worked really well for my parents. My parents are absolutely amazing. And so I thought I could just parent like them. I'm just going to grab these things and I'm going to do them. Did not work. Did not realize I was parenting different children, right? So I needed to do that work on myself so I could show up and be the absolute best version of myself. Part of that for me involved therapy. I at some one point wasn't sure what I was even doing wrong or what I could change or where some of these feelings were coming from. So get a teenager, get a therapist, start figuring it out, because their developmental phase, it is a phase that like they need us to be a rock. We have to be the wall. We have to be the steady person. They're not going to be able to do it. And if we wait to try to make them steady, everyone's just going to be disappointed and it's going to fall apart. It has to be us. We have to enter into that space as a healthy adult person. And so that was a game changer for our family. Absolutely.
It's so important because there's no shame, and it's not
No.
an inadequacy. It's not that you don't know enough,
No.
but we can't be aware of what we're not aware of, on our own oftentimes, that we can't change what we're not aware of. And until you can get to the space of your own awareness, and so that it gives you direction, right?
Absolutely it does. And there's like this feeling out there, we're all supposed to know what we're doing. And we'll look right, like how are we supposed to know? And then you look around social media and that's actually reinforced because everybody is shining it up and they're posting their best stuff. And I'm like, well, everybody else seems like they know what they're doing. I don't know what okay, so do I just shine it up? What do I do next? Because it's falling apart in these walls. Right? It is falling apart and it looks like no one else is falling apart. So to be really honest about that and then to say that's okay. And also that I'm also not going to get it right every time. The amount of times that I've spent apologizing in this house is a bazillion. I went into this parenting game never apologizing because I thought I was supposed to know everything around my kids too. So I would do something like I grounded my daughter once for 3 solid months because that seemed like the next thing to do, right? Mm-hmm. And when I grounded her for 3 months, she said, no problem. I really been looking forward to working on my art, right? Because the thing she had done, it was worth it to her. It was 100% worth it. She just like doubled down on me, like I don't even care. I really wanted to go do this thing and lie to you about it. It was worth it for me. So whatever happens next. And so I'm sitting there thinking, I'm just going to keep doing this. Well, it was so damaging to our relationship that I called her in my book my first pancake of the 5 kids. It's the one I tried all the things on and they didn't all work very well. I find myself going back still to this day and apologizing to her and saying, I don't know what I was thinking. I would never do that again. Right. And she's 23 now, so we can laugh about it. And we've had a lot of repair in our relationship because the amount of times I didn't listen, the amount of times I tried to be the expert, the amount of times I just tried to control her and just really didn't work and needed that repair. Now with my 5th kid, I just apologize in the moment. It's so much handier.
It's an energy saver. And it's one less thing on your to-do list.
It's one less thing to think about at 2 a.m, right? like all the thoughts. It's like now I know, like, oh, I cannot believe I said that. Saying like I did not show up how I wanted to show up. Mom needs a rewind. I am so sorry. Like I did not enter that into that space well. And then our kids follow suit. They do that too, right? They will say, I am sorry. That was not what I meant to say, Mom. I am just really tired. Like, great. Awesome. We can move forward.
And that's a beautiful spot. I want to go back to parenting the way that your parents parented.
Yes.
In that, you said your parents were wonderful parents. And it's so important to note, and I'll give you a little example of that when our parents parented, it was a very, very different world. And, and parenting in this world now is completely different. What we have to deal with, the issues that come up, I mean, what is similar can be our values, our personal ethics, and being loving, being kind, being a caring person, not being a bully, and all those sorts of things.
Yes.
But beyond the ethical and personal virtues,
Yes.
the rest of it is a completely different world. And and those tenets, not the tenets of kindness, but what gets navigated and what the challenges are really, really different.
Yes. Absolutely. Like night and day. And that, I mean, my mom has said more than one time, like, I'm glad I'm not parenting now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, like it is challenging. And I have actually heard from a lot of grandparents have read my book and said, I am so glad I've read this because I know it's more challenging for you all, but I didn't really get why or what you were going through. Like I can kind of see it from this level, but to really get, because I didn't know either. Like I started out just thinking I do these things. I set a curfew, but the world is just insanely different. And so to meet those challenges, I knew what I wanted. What my parents cultivated in our family was a lifelong connection. I talked to my mom every day. I talked to my dad all the time. I'm close with my sisters. We just had a very, like, family was a core value. And that's taken me so far. So I know that's what I want. But then I had to figure out, how do I parent in that way now in these days, which sometimes looks so wildly different from what my parents would have done. It just has to. We just have these really open conversations all the time, and everything's on the table. And I think sometimes that's so different. My kids are like that with their grandparents too. They'll walk in and they will just tell you what they are thinking, what they are doing, because that's what this generation is here for. They are here for openness. They are here for honesty. They do not want something that's fake and polished up. Social media is already, like my older kids are already like done, right? Like one of them just said the other day, could we get a home phone back, like with a cord like you had? And then like people would just call me and I wouldn't have to have my phone on. I could just say, you can just call on this other phone. I'm like, I love that so much. So they are already, my older kids, seeing that. So we have to show up in this way that honors them, honors what they need, and honors the very real struggles that they are experiencing that are not what I went through.
Not at all. And the curfew, I mean, the curfew isn't just what time you get home. The curfew is what time you get home, and then when are your screens going off? When is the phone going away? When is the tech piece of it stopping? And it's a really hard place. And not that we're here to solve that, but we're here to just put light on how it's a lot.
It's a lot, and we're always learning. Like we're right in it too. Like I think of going from my 23-year-old to my 13-year-old, right? So that's the span of my kiddos. Very blessed this year. They're all home for a year. The girls, my 3 college kids, are home.
Wait, hold on. Wait. Okay, so you're at 3 college kids and the other 2 are...
And a junior in high school and an 8th grader. So I have a middle schooler still, a high schooler, and then like 3 college kids. So, and one's at the tech school, and then 2 are at the college, local college, not local. So they've got to drive, but it's close enough that they can commute and save some money. So everyone just happened to kind of make that decision this year. It kind of ended that way. My son was on a gap year and actually decided to go back to school. So it's just been really interesting to have them all under this roof, right? So we're all kind of experiencing this really cool time to examine some of these issues together. And so my older kids are able to shed light for my younger kids. And that's, I talk about this all the time, but my youngest has way more, the only place he has more rules is on his phone. And he does not have social media. His sister, everybody else had it in middle school. He's in 8th grade. He does not have it. He does not even have the internet on his phone. So he cannot get YouTube, any of those other things. But he also has like more encouragement to go out into the world. And I feel like I held my kids too tight that way. Like, where are you going? You can't possibly bike that far. Make sure you call when you get there. And for my youngest, it's much more, I think you guys should just go. Like, why don't you guys just go on your bikes and bike around? And they look at me like, what are you talking about? Like, that's like in the Goonies, Mom. Yes, it is. It's like in the Goonies. That's what I want you to do. Right. So it's trying to kind of, course correct what we've seen happen in the last 10 years, because my older kids have a lot of, this trauma I didn't even know was happening from things they saw on the social media or they experienced.
It's being tuned in a completely different kind of way. And also, if you're someone who grew up thinking that you would be a parent, right? You have this idea, you develop this vision, this image of what you're going to be like as a parent. So often, if that's your path, then you have that in you. There are all different paths.
Yes.
That is your path. By the time you actually are parenting, right? And becoming a parent doesn't, just for clarification purposes, becoming a parent doesn't mean that you have to have a pregnancy.
Correct.
You can become a parent in all different kinds of ways.
Absolutely, you can.
Right. So if your idea is about being a parent, by the time you become a parent, you have a whole world that you've developed. You have what used to be called an encyclopedia, in your head. And then you feel like you're really ready to do it until you are really not.
Exactly.
Moment, that moment, and that moment when you realize, no, what do I do now?
Yes. That moment was the moment that brought me to that moment is why that my book exists, because I sat there outside of my kid's door, like just on my knees, and faith is very important to me. I was praying like for some kind of strength, and I just needed something, because I thought I have exhausted all of what I thought I knew about being a parent, and it is not working. We are in the weeds. I can't even get to the kid behind the door. They won't even open it up, right? Like, and when they do open it up, I don't even know what I'm going to do. Right? Like, I feel like, what is this next step? What is going to happen now? And I think so many of us as parents have that moment, and repeatedly we might even have it throughout our child's development. You get in this spot, you're like, got it, killing it, and then all of a sudden they do something else, and you're like, nope, don't got it, right?
Not only do you not got it from one time to the next, I'm not, when I say you, it's the collective you,
right?
But also we think, we hope, we wish so deeply in our hearts that, okay, I'm figuring this out with my first one. So now with my second, if you go in that path, I'm good to go. And you're so not.
You are completely incorrect. Like, just start over. You are starting over. Like, you have a couple things in your toolbox. Like, you might have like, okay, I know that I need to take a minute before I have a hard conversation. So you might know that. Or you might, I know I need to apologize when I mess up. I know I can't silently seethe for a day because their bedroom is messy, right? So like, I know there are I have a couple more tools in my toolbox, but also that kid's going to hit you with an entirely different personality, an entirely different set of needs. I would look at, my first kid was impervious to yelling, grounding, negative feedback. None of it. My second, if I just looked at her, we call it the eyebrows. You can see them. I do this. She's down. What's wrong? What's happening? Like just every mood soaks into her skin. I had to show up completely differently. And then that was my third one. I was like, okay, got it. Nope. 5 kids, guys, and not yet. Can I just do the same thing? It's just not that kind of thing.
Right. So that, and for us, as parents and as adults, I think one of the things, and I'm sure this is part of what you experience, that it's so important to know that, your kids are going to do all sorts of things that you can't even imagine. And showing up, having to navigate that.
Yes.
The one way that you can count on yourself is at least to try to keep yourself grounded.
Absolutely.
Try to, to try to just hold on to your internal base. One of the things that I do, and I wonder, I don't know if you've done this, is that, it's like, well, what happens and why do we need to do that? And sometimes when I'm working, what I do is that I love snow globes, by the way. I love snow.
Oh,
And
that's
so
beautiful.
I keep a snow globe and I shake it up. And it's like, when we're all upset, we can't think clearly. And so we have to wait until, we need to be able to calm down, and so that our thinking can be clear. And and one of the things that I call it is the kind of like the 2x4 on the side of the head when, and let me know how this resonates with you. Okay. When you get a call, or now maybe more, a text from one of your kids, it's like, hi, this is happening right now, and I need to be able to do this like right now. I need to know this right now. And you're like, and you just can't, just, it's not enough time to just take a thing through. And it's that momentary, so can I go with them, can I do this, can I go there, can I say, and and how do you put that together, Amy? You have had many opportunities with 5 children to be.
So many stories are going through my head right now of different moments where I've like, and a lot of times too, like they'll even call you, you're driving, they can get to you all the time, right? And which is great. But I'm thinking about like one of my strategies, and that is just so helpful for me right now, is I need to stop, and I know they want me right now, pull over on the side of the road. I've been in more than one gas station parking lot doing this, or just like in the middle of even my classroom, wherever I am, is to stop and breathe. And my reaction is always very visceral. And I think we can really relate to this with our kids, because we're so in tune sometimes to them, or so worried, and we feel their emotions like they're happening to us, right? I can actually feel what they're feeling in that moment. And that is not helpful, because now we're both in it. We're both just in the muck together. You don't want to get in it with them, because someone has to be out of it and be thinking clearly. I take a minute, I breathe, and I say, Amy, it's not happening to you. This is not happening to you. You are an adult woman. You are holding down a job, paying your bills, whatever I have to say, right? You're driving a car, that's fine. Like all the things are okay. Like what I name all the things that are okay, even the today your body feels good, like whatever it is. This is your current state. This is happening to your kid, and you can help them, but it's not happening to you. And that calms that kind of that internal mess for me. I think it takes my snow globe and it just settles it all down. And then I'm able to come back and say, okay, a lot of times I'll even have to say that again to me. What is happening? What's your priority? Trying to get them also to calm. But if I am not calm, if I get in it with them, or I let my emotions take over, then it's just, I'm crying, they're crying, we're all crying. And they also see it as doom. Oh my gosh, I've completely messed up. Sometimes they actually have. Sometimes they actually have completely messed up, right? That's 100% true. But all humans completely mess up. So to remind them, you're a human person, and this thing has happened to you. That happens to human people. Could you have avoided it? Probably. But that's all right. It doesn't matter, because now we just need to think about the next best thing. How can we think about what's the one next thing you need to do as a person, and how can I help you with that? And then that's it. Just that next thing. We're not going to go all the way down the road of now this means this, just that next thing. So those kind of things, those two really, it's not happening to me. What's the next thing for you? That separation, that's one of the things that calms me as a parent in particular.
Yeah, I call that maintaining your emotional thermostat.
Love it.
That
Yes.
the thermostat doesn't have to rise together and fall together. You maintain your own thermostat.
And I think as parents, we think we're supposed to, like, I always felt like, at least I did, I thought I was being really empathetic. And that was what a good mom did, was kept her thermostat in tune to her children, or all 5 of her children. So disaster. You're correct. Ours needs to be our own personal thermostat.
And we can be happy for them. We can feel their sadness, but that doesn't mean that we're all in the mosh pit together, which is exhausting.
Exhausting. And impossible. I found myself at one point, I was just so unhealthy because that's what I was doing all the time, right? So there's no room even for you to know your own emotions. You're feeling everybody else's.
Yeah. So Amy, I'm sorry that we're wrapping up because we have so much more to say. This is our first conversation, so we'll have another conversation.
I love that.
What's your next disruption?
My next disruption, I think, is going to be really around, I don't even know how to say this one, but it's crafting this new idea of what our family is as my kids are older and moving on. I'm getting really, really intentional right now about, like, I'm lucky they're all back, but I also can see I'm going to have another opportunity to launch them. And I really, when that happens, I want to do that with intention and joy. And so I want to disrupt my narrative of they leave and it's loss.
Oh.
They leave and it's loss, right? That sometimes is my kind of my soundtrack in my head. If you follow Johnny, that's it, right? We're always working on soundtracks. So I want to disrupt that soundtrack, and I want to watch them flourish with intention and joy when that launch comes.
Well, I will help you with that.
Okay.
Will be my joy to help you with that.
Oh, please do. I need that. That's what. Walk alongside me, friend. Walk alongside me.
Done and done. Done. Yes. And we're going to make that happen.
Your blessing.
Take our glam shop right now for our.
Okay.
And I want to thank you, but here, let's get this done. You ready?
Okay. I'm ready.
And one more. And Amy, thank you so very much for coming on, for being my guest and also the guest of our communities and having this disruptive conversation, which is intentional disruption. And for everyone who's come on today, thank you so much for being here. If you've missed any part of this, you'll be able to see it on my Instagram, on Amy's Instagram. It is not lost to you. Let your friends know that they need to hear this one. Really super important. Come be with me next time. Come follow me, Amy, to get more information that'll help you and is really applicable to your life. Can't wait to see you next time. And remember, positive change can happen at any point in time. You're never too late. See you next week. And I've saved a seat for you.
Thank you.